Good evening. Today is Wednesday, June 4th, 2025, and I'd like to call the regular City Commission meeting. We will start with convening the meeting, and we'll have the roll call, please.
Commissioner Scott Wilson. Here. Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Here.
Commissioner Adam Morrow.
Here.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell.
Here.
And Mayor Denise McGriff.
Present. Would you all please stand if you are able and join me in the flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, on tonight's agenda, we have 3 items under ceremonies and proclamations. And I'd like to go to the first item, which is, it is involving the awarding of a award for the If I Were Mayor contest. This contest is sponsored by the Oregon Mayors Association, of which the City of Oregon City is a member. And I'd like to ask our staff to come forward with her report. Thank you, Hannah.
Good evening, Mayor McGriff and City Commissioners. My name's Hannah Schmidt. I'm the Community Engagement Specialist for the City of Oregon City. And as you recall, back in April 16th, there was a City Commission meeting that was held where all of the winners within the If I Were Mayor local Oregon City contest were awarded. We had 5 different students who were awarded, and the first place contestants within the local category moved on to the state category. And we have a student with us tonight, an 11th grader, Justin Evers, who goes to Oregon City High School, who placed 2nd at the state level, which is extremely exciting. And the mayor will be presenting a $300 check to Justin. So congratulations to Justin.
Yep, that's great. So, I'm just going to make a couple of remarks. This is our second year that we have had people enter into this contest that is statewide. And this is the second year that we've placed statewide. So I'm just very excited that we have been able to do this. And we've had some very creative and talented students who have entered in this. And we hope next year to get even more. And so, you know, 3rd time's a charm. Next year, 1st place.
And the other thing that I will just emphasize for those who want to see Justin's submissions, there is a QR code in the back where you can scan and see all of the Oregon Mayors Association winners at the state level, and take an extra special attention to Justin's video.
So Commissioner Mitchell, would you like to say anything?
Oh, just congratulations.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes, good job. It's good to know that we've had so many successful winners actually in the short amount of time we've been doing this. It's really great.
2, I count them, 2 winners.
Yeah, I was going to say this is fantastic. You should be wildly proud of it. Pretty amazing. Yeah.
Commissioner Morrow.
Yes, thank you. Congratulations, Justin Evers. And I also just want to point out for residents that not only is he a youth advisory commissioner, but he is also the past kid governor of Oklahoma. So he has excelled in many ways. And so congratulations.
Awesome. All right. Just checking these. So Justin, come on up. And then I'd like to get a picture of all of this unit. So this year's Oregon Mayors Conference is in Baker City. And the nice thing about this, Justin, is I get to have bragging rights while I'm here. So I'm not going to go down and have it. So we have a lot of stiff competition from the cities of Albany and the city of Lake Oswego, both mayors who I'm friends with. And they don't know it or anything, but they consistently place #1, which is just, I don't know how they're doing it. But anyway, but we're #2, which I think is just as good. So I'm going to hand this to you, and then I'm going to ask for my fellow commissioners to come down so we can take a picture, because I think we need to all share in your award. So let me put this down. Justin, I'm so happy to
Thank you very much. I'm very glad that I was able to do this well and help our city out in this way, and I'm very proud of what I've done. Thank you very much.
Does college fund money? Yes. All right. Guys.
One, two, three, blinking. Right?
Give me mine.
That's okay. Oh. Thank you.
Good job. And Justin will be returning to our Youth Advisory Commission for next year, so that'll be exciting. We have some more veterans coming in. Next on our agenda, we have two proclamations that we would like to read, and I'd like to ask Commissioner Wilson to read proclamation for Juneteenth.
Whereas President Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1st, 1863, declaring the slaves in the Confederate territory free, paving the way for the passing of the 13th Amendment, which formally abolished slavery in the United States of America. And whereas word about the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation was delayed some 2.5 years to June 19th, 1865, in reaching authorities and African Americans in the South and Southwestern United States. And whereas June 19th has special meaning to African Americans and is called Juneteenth, combining the words June and 19th, and has been celebrated for over 150 years. And whereas Juneteenth-centered activities have taken place to promote and cultivate knowledge and appreciation of African American history and culture. And whereas Juneteenth is a day of reflection and a day of renewal. It is a moment in time to appreciate not only the African American experience, but is inclusive of all races, ethnicities, and nationalities. And whereas Juneteenth is a day that we can all come together as a community to listen, to learn, and to refresh the drive to achieve. It is a day where we can come one step closer together to better utilize the energy wasted on racism. And whereas the annual Juneteenth celebration in the city of Oregon City will be held on Saturday, June 21st at 2 p.m. at the end of the Oregon Trail Interpretive Center.
Now, therefore, I, Denise C. McGriff, and the City Commission of Oregon City do hereby proclaim June 19th, 2025 as Juneteenth Day in Oregon City, and we urge all citizens to become more aware of the significance of this celebration in African American history and the heritage of our nation. And I will sign this proclamation today on the 4th day of June, 2025. And as Scott said, we are planning with other folks our event at the end of the Oregon Trail Center, and we hope to see you all there. I think it's going to be yet another wonderful celebration. I believe this is our 5th year. Is that correct, Mr. Williams? 5th year. So I did remember correctly. All right. Next, we have our second proclamation. Commissioner Smith.
This is a proclamation for Pride Month. Whereas all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and in rights, and this nation was founded on the principle that every individual has infinite dignity and worth. And whereas members of the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer community have fought bravely to live openly and authentically and to celebrate who they are and who they love. And whereas because of the acts of courage by millions who came out and spoke out to demand justice, and by those who quietly toiled and pushed for progress, our country has made great strides in recognizing what those brave individuals long knew to be true in their hearts, that no person should be judged by anything but the content of their character. And whereas the efforts and achievements of the LGBTQ plus community have allowed all to enjoy greater dignity, freedom, justice, equality, and where acknowledgement and education remain essential to help eliminate prejudice wherever it may exist. And whereas the city of Oregon City is unequivocally committed to supporting visibility, dignity, and equality for LGBTQ plus people in our diverse community. And whereas LGBTQ plus individuals have made immeasurable contributions to the cultural, civic, and economic success of our country, and whereas recognizing, celebrating, and standing with the LGBTQ plus community provides an opportunity for all Oregon City residents to strengthen alliances, build acceptance, advance equal rights, and create a better, more inclusive community.
Whereas in recognizing and celebrating, oh, you just read that. And now therefore I, Denise C. McGriff, the City of Oregon City Commission hereby proclaim June 2025 as Pride Month and call upon all citizens of Oregon City to join their fellow citizens across the United States in recognizing and participating in this special observance. And I will sign this proclamation on June 4th, today, 2025. And I also will add that on Friday, starting at 5 p.m. at Wachino Hall at Clackamas Community College, there will be a Summer Connection celebration. It is open to everyone and it is free. And we'll, again, look forward to seeing you there. There will be food, there will be some entertainment, there'll be some speechifying, but short speechifying, and there'll be lots of people there who will have tables and you can talk to different members of the community. We've in the past had our library staff there. We've also had our Parks and Recreation staff there as well. And looking forward to, again, co-sponsoring this event with our partners at Clackamas Community College.
And Mayor?
Yes, sir.
The Oregon City Pride Festival will also be taking place at Clackamas Community College,
Okay,
but
yes.
September 6th.
September 6th. All right, get that down. Get that on our, I think Mr. Lehman's still here. He'll get that on the website so that that information is out there. Is there a specific time that we know of? Is it
I don't.
mid-after? Last time it was midday.
Most
Okay,
day.
all right, I'm making a note of it. Okay, all right, so I'm gonna move on to the next item on our agenda, and that is item number 4, which is public comments. And so these are for items that are not on the agenda. So I do have some slips here, and we just ask I'll call you up, let's see. I've got 3 people, but there may be other people who decide at the last minute they want to say something. So I'll call 2 of you up and you can take either of the chairs. There's a green button which turns the mic on. So I'll recognize you. Please just give us your name and your city of residence. Obviously, I see that you're all from Oregon City, but we have to have that on the tape. So I'll call Scott and I'll call Lizzie. You come on up. No, please don't clap. This is not clapping. This is not clapping. Lizzie? Come on up. Take the other chair. That's okay. We have devices. Do you need something? We have devices. Do you need something?
Hopefully not.
Okay. Well, if you do, Jacob will take care of you right there. So, Scott, would you like to go first, please? Okay. Thank you.
My name is Scott Dunphy, and I live at 503 Madison Street here in Oregon City. In the McLaughlin Historic District. I've lived there for 26 years, and I'm deeply concerned about the future of the historic district given some recent developments. I'm here with a number of neighbors who, not everybody's going to speak, but we all received notice from the city about needing to repair sidewalks. We are looking at a situation where people in the historic district are facing the prospect of having to sell their homes and move because they cannot afford the repairs that they've been assessed. Some people literally said, this is going to bankrupt me if I do this.
These are people you've spoken with?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I bought a home in the historic district intentionally because I care deeply about historic preservation. And I've poured a lot of money into taking care of that house. And I know other neighbors are doing everything that they can do as well to contribute to historic preservation. But to now be saddled with having to take care of this piece of infrastructure for the city, it's just overwhelming, and we're at our wits' end. We have met with the Public Works Construction Inspector. We have met with the Assistant City Engineer. We appreciate their willingness to, do everything they can to work with us, but at this point, we're stuck because of the statutes. And we are looking to the City Council for some kind of relief or redress, that you could take some action that would I don't know, reduce the cost in some way, delay having to implement all of this at once, like it looks like we have to do right now. I don't know. So I'm concerned for the well-being of my neighbors. I'm concerned for the future of the historic district. But I have a third concern, and I'll be as diplomatic as I can about this, but it's my understanding that one individual made a complaint, a whole host of complaints that put all of us in this position. And that this person is known to many of the staff and to, if not, maybe all of you as well. And that impacts the livability of our city when we have to deal with somebody like that. I don't know what the solution is, and I'm even willing to offer myself with some of my background, which we could discuss later.
We will, yeah.
To help me deal with that.
We're going to hear from everybody first, and normally when we have public comments like this, we don't usually respond, but I think this is an exception, and so we're going to have the city manager talk about this a little bit and give some suggestions for solutions on how we can help you. We do want to help you.
Because I just see this continuing.
Right, I understand. So I need to give Lizzie her times because you get 3 minutes. So, Lizzie, thank you. So just name and city of,
I basically just
name and city of residence.
Oh, Lizzie Robards Dilly.
Okay.
I'm basically here to stand with neighbors. My sidewalk was pretty insignificant, but we all know that's here from the neighborhood. We have one person that is causing all this hell. And I would like to understand why he can call 62 times in one day to complain on all the neighbors. His house looks the worst, but yet he can make all those phone calls on all these neighbors and cost them thousands of dollars. So that's all the time I need. Something needs to be done with Jake Burgard and his wife.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And do we return to our seats at this point?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
All right, the only other slip I have is Christina Hart, who's one of, so you're all my neighbors, so hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you so much for having me here. I did time my speech, and it's 4.5 minutes. There are 6 other people that aren't speaking.
We'll give you a little extra time.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. So yeah, my name is Christina Hart. I go by Georgie. I am a homeowner in the McLaughlin district. And I'm here representing both myself and a number of other homeowners in my neighborhood affected by recent sidewalk repair notices from the city. As I'm sure you're all well aware, there is an individual that reported 70 houses in total in the McLaughlin district for sidewalks that are in some form of disrepair, either lifted due to city trees or simply broken due to age and degeneration. Of course, members of the McLaughlin district understand that ADA compliance is important. None of us are refuting that. We all want members of our community to be safe and well. With that said, as owners of historical homes, we are the stewards of historical preservation, as well as the bearers of critical repairs for systems that were put in place 100 years ago and rarely updated. Historical homeowners are thus often in a cycle of saving and spending for expensive, big-ticket repairs that prioritize emergency-level crisis, such as leaking roofs or broken sewer lines, over lower priority repairs such as minor cracks or lifts in our sidewalks. In Oregon City, the McLaughlin district stands out in my mind as a crown jewel. Loving and preserving historical homes takes a type of grit, humor, perseverance, and care that is unique and worked into the fabric of our community. We are the type of folks who show up for each other in ice storms, share a plate of food over the fence line, lend each other pressure washers, generators, and tree pruners. We are in it together. We aren't tech Mongols who can breeze through hundreds of thousands of dollars of repairs and updates, pressuring the city to modernize the district. We are working people who understand the value of a dollar and still manage to share what we have with our neighbors. Sorry.
It's okay, take your time.
And we care about the historical nature of our neighborhood. In my opinion, this type of person, the type of people I share this street with, are what make Oregon City an incredible place to live. Very few of us in the McLaughlin district have the extra means to meet the demands of a random, unforeseen, expensive repair. In addition to carrying out the burden of loving and caring for a historical home, we all have our lives as well. The individual that reported us has no idea that some of us are in the midst of a divorce. Others have sick parents, new babies, high needs children, crippling student debt, medical bills, and many other financial burdens that accompany modern life in the United States. While we all care about safety and have no opposition to functional sidewalks, we have been informed in many cases that lower cost options are not allowed by city code. We cannot patch areas of the sidewalk that have disintegrated over time. We must fully replace the panels. We cannot grind down areas that are raised over half an inch. We must fully replace them. And we cannot get reimbursement unless we have both city trees that are the cause of the disrepair and that we fully replace those panels of sidewalk instead of grinding them down. This places undue financial burden on the many members of our community as historical homeowners, many of whom have not had any portion of sidewalk replaced over the last 40 to 60 years or more, as evidenced by the depth of the sidewalk, once 2 inches thick instead of the modern code required 4 inches. In addition to now potentially needing to completely rebalance our financial priorities to replace our sidewalks, regardless of what other critical repairs are on our list as historical homeowners, we also have a litigious individual surveilling the neighborhood and menacing the contractors completing said repairs. Restraining orders have been filed against this individual in some cases. Some people have sold their homes and left the district altogether. Given the response from the city has been to cite local homeowners and carry through financially devastating requirements, what is to stop this individual from citing historical homeowners for any other level of imperfection that will throw us down the rabbit hole of city notices and financial despair again and again? As a citizen of the McLaughlin district and on behalf of my neighborhood, I am now asking you as the city to intervene. You can trust we are hardworking people who contribute to this city and to the McLaughlin district as being the crown jewel that it is. Now we ask you to come to our aid and say, no more. On behalf of my neighbors and on myself and my neighbors, and to that end, I'm requesting from the city the following: to rewrite the qualifying standards for the city's sidewalk reimbursement program to include any homeowner who has to fully replace more than 2 panels of sidewalk, regardless of whether city trees are the cause of sidewalk disrepair. Historical homeowners are disproportionately burdened with updating whole systems, including our sewer, water line, and sidewalks. The city should be cognizant and offer assistance without question, rather than allowing historical homeowners to quietly weep themselves to sleep at night, wondering how they're gonna make these repairs and still pay their mortgage payment, keep taking their children to school, their mother to the doctor, or contemplating simply selling their houses and leaving altogether. I believe there are reasonable solutions here that do not place undue financial burden on the good people of Oregon City and on the historical homeowners in the McLaughlin district in particular. I ask you to please consider them. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Conkle and Ms. Richter, can you provide some context for this, please, for our residents?
I think you've heard from the residents what's driving this. The city is not actively out looking for sidewalk lifts and ADA complaints. We have been, as part of our pavement maintenance utility fee, as we've been doing roads, we've been upgrading ramps, ADA to ADA compliant. Obviously, when you have several hundred miles of roads and sidewalks and ramps in your community, you cannot get to them all. You know, we're talking decades, right? We've historically, the way our code is set up is that the liability associated with the sidewalk is with the property owner. You know, we'd be happy to go back and look at the sidewalk replacement program that we created a couple of years ago to address lifted, cracked sidewalks from street trees. We can come back and have a discussion about, you know, I think during the budget process, we saw kind of an initial pretty heavy use, and it's kind of declined over time, you know, but those funds are there. We did have funds that weren't expended as we're coming up to the end of the existing biennium. You know, that's something we can talk about. As it relates to, you know, grinding standards or patching standards, I'd really need to talk with our Public Works Department, right? There does get to a point where, you know, grinding becomes essentially a failure, right? There are safety concerns associated with that as well. We have talked to our attorneys, our outside legal counsel related to options. You know, the difficult part here is that, you know, the code complaints being turned in are related to American with Disability Act requirements and standards, right? This isn't, you know, someone's, you know, paint is chipping, right? So it's a little bit different in terms of, you know, these sidewalks are out of compliance. And so how do we address that? And the way our code is set up is through working with the property owner for those improvements to be made. You know, I'd welcome, you know, if this is something the commission would like to have a work session on to kind of talk about. People have asked, why don't we just ignore these, right? So Oregon City is a complaint-driven code enforcement process, and we have one individual who's abusing the process. Absolutely, right? The hard part for us as a jurisdiction is, you know, once we have notice of it, right, we have to do something at some point, right? We cannot just ignore liabilities when they've been brought forward. So I'm extremely sympathetic to what these homeowners are going through, not only on code enforcement complaints. I have read numerous emails and texts about intimidation, video recording, confrontations, going up to contractors unwilling to come back into the neighborhood to do work. You know, I think our staff would be happy to work with folks, you know, in terms of, you know, the programs that we have available are trying to help consolidate multiple sidewalks under one contractor. But, you know, we're trying to do as much as we can with the way our code is written in the programs that we have available to us. I'm sure that our staff are not nearly as frustrated or hurt as these property owners are, but it is a daily, almost daily occurrence that we are dealing with in this situation. It is something I have not dealt with in my tenure here.
Well, I know that our code was not set up in mind to deal with something like this on what I would call a vicious and relentless process. Is there any way that we can extend time to allow people to find a solution? You mentioned consolidating, because, you know, the more that you do, I know I replaced a panel at my house, and city manager worked with me on that before I was on the commission, mind you. And I replaced a tree as well. So it happened in the fall so that I could plant the tree during the time that it needed to be planted. But there may be a way that, is there a way that we could work with folks to see about consolidating it and possibly extending the time, giving people time Because do we have a time frame in the code that says has to be done by X? I mean, I think this is an extraordinary circumstance that we never anticipated would occur. And as Ms. Roberts Dole said, 66, that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, I guess I'd appreciate the opportunity to maybe come back with the staff who deal with this on a daily basis. I know that code enforcement, across all complaints that we receive, like our goal is voluntary compliance, right? So we try to work with folks. As long as we're making progress, we tend to work with folks in terms of time. Now, yes, there are code limitations that have been identified. But once again, I think as long as we're moving towards compliance, we tend to work with folks to get there.
I know that's not, we can't recognize people from the audience, sorry. It's not, unfortunately not allowed. So I know that our staff is working, very hard. Any of you have any other ideas or suggestions? I think that we're doing as a city all we can to try to understand the specific circumstances of each person and probably the constraints that they have. We do really want to work with you. We would, as you said, we would not be in this situation if it was not for a specific individual that is generating this. Maybe, there would be something that if it was really severe, somebody might see it, but we're not going out there, we're not targeting you. That's honestly, you have to understand that. Commissioner Morrow.
Thank you, Mayor. So we just heard stories about someone being on somebody else's private property, intimidation. What, if anything, has occurred between this individual and law enforcement? Obviously, it isn't against the law for him to do some of those things, and he has the right to do that. But when it gets to that more extreme level, I'm wondering if there are ways beyond that where law enforcement can have something to do with this.
In the discussions I've had with the mayor as well as Mr. Paul with the McLaughlin Neighborhood Association, they have been receiving a lot of emails, a lot of texts about interactions or things that they've been seeing. I've asked both of them to tell folks you need to submit it to the police department. Right? So at what point does it become a stalking or a harassment? That's for a judge to decide, but you need to call non-emergency, or if it's an emergency, 911 related to it. Just sending an email to your neighborhood association rep about your frustrations or something that happened does the city absolutely no good in creating any type of a record as to what the interactions are. And so, obviously this is different than the sidewalk, right? I know the office, our police department has had numerous interactions. I'm not going to get into detail as to everything that's occurred. We are abundantly aware, multiple complaints filed against police officers. It's an ongoing issue, but I think the biggest thing for residents is you need to contact so that we can document and start creating the record of what's exactly happening. I don't know, Sean, did you want to add anything else, Chief? Are you good?
I think you covered most of it, but yeah, every time we get a call from one party or the other, we investigate those to determine. So some of this stuff is freedom of speech. Some of this stuff is First Amendment rights. But if it's not, then we will investigate it and forward those reports or to the appropriate prosecutor, the city attorney, or the DA's office.
So could I just...
Please go ahead.
So I just want to reiterate to our neighbors here that absent the things that we can address, and we are going to look at those, that we would really appreciate it if you did make those calls. I know that there are many people who are afraid because they don't think that it rises to the level, but our police and our code enforcement are there for a reason. And as you just heard, the ability to have that track record will be helpful when this person goes beyond what they have granted to them as their freedom of speech right and what goes into harassment or stalking or whatever that may be.
Yeah, again, I can't reiterate enough, and I've responded this way to a lot of emails. I said, I don't care how trivial it seems to you, call. Give the dispatcher the information. It creates a record. That's what we need. I forwarded I forwarded every email that I've gotten from our neighbors and my neighbors to the city so that they have that. But again, that's part of what needs to happen, is that we need to create that record. Do you want to say anything?
I just want to say, like, we hear you. What's that?
I said, we're sorry.
Yeah. And I believe that we, as a commission, all are going to work with you to figure this out. I know we have some constraints due to ADA compliance issues, and also I believe that we can work together to find some solutions that both address that and meet the very reasonable concerns that you all have. I can't be in a position where anybody is contemplating selling their home due to a
It's
sidewalk.
already happened. 2 people have moved on that street.
Wow. Yeah, we need to address that.
I guess I'm going to ask, am I legally allowed to say that this person has also been cited for their sidewalk problem? So, we didn't do it, somebody else turned them in, so.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I would like to see us have a work session and look at the sidewalk repair. Maybe it is time to expand it and to conditions where it's not caused by a tree.
Mr. Kersey, are
Something to
there,
consider.
yeah, are there any of the sidewalk issues, any of them qualify for the program that we currently have?
The Public Works Department. All that, yeah.
Because you saw the complaints, so.
Thank you for inviting me up. Ryan Kersey, Code Enforcement Manager. All the complaints we receive go to the Public Works Engineering Department first. That's who the neighbors said they've met with, walked, kind of see what's needed to be done and what's allowed. So I would imagine they would know from their visits what would apply to the current, program and what would not.
Okay.
And of course, we would all be open to a resolution, so.
Are you all amenable to us putting this at the head of the class at our next work session, so to speak? It's, I cannot tell you all, not just because you're my neighbors, because I live in the McLaughlin Conservation District as well, but as citizens of this city, how sorry we all are. Again, sometimes it's one person who causes a lot of problems. I will say, just so that you're aware, I have been, let's just say, he got in my face about something as well. Right on the steps of 625 Center Street. And it was not a pleasant experience. So I do know what you have been getting subjected to. All right, so we are going to, our work session, we have a work session on Tuesday. Can we get it on?
Yeah, we'll put together as much as we can by tomorrow.
Okay, as much as, if we can even take a half an hour to talk about this, see where we can go, that would be very helpful. Anyways, just so before I close this out, is there anybody else who's in the audience? I know you didn't fill out a slip, but if you would like to come forward and say something, this is your opportunity, and you can fill out the slip later. Yes. This is an exception. We generally, yeah, that's fine. We want you to understand that you're being heard. I get all the emails too.
I'm so grateful. Thank you for that. Thank you all for hearing us. It's been tough.
Stressful.
I wanted to come up here to give you my specific circumstances so you have a sense of the parameters of this. Some folks in my neighborhood do qualify for the reimbursement program, others don't. Some are on a corner that have multiple trees. Obviously, because
Sure.
of the depth of the sidewalk, you can tell that it hasn't been replaced in however long it, since it was first made, because it's only 2 inches thick, and you can't grind it down because it would only grind it down to about 1 inch, and of course that's going to break. For me in particular, and why this is a deeply complicated issue, is because where I live, my sidewalk is in disrepair, not lifted, but areas that are broken up that jut up to a concrete retaining wall that is also in disrepair. The reason why this is so complicated is because when you repair things like a concrete sidewalk and infrastructure like a concrete retaining wall, you open up the discussion around replacing clay sewer lines as well as galvanized pipes that are also ancient and rusted through. It ends up being something much bigger than the $7,000 sidewalk repair, which was already devastating, and then balloons very quickly into something that's $45,000 to $50,000 to complete all the infrastructure that would be required to not have to do it all over again when I finally have the money to do so. So you can see why in a historical district, it's not about people not wanting to be ADA compliant, but simply not having the money to deal with the massive amounts of repairs needed to just get things done. Of course I want to do those things. Of course the citizens want to do those things, but I just don't know anybody in the neighborhood that has that kind of money in a 5-year period or even a 10-year period. So I guess I wanted an opportunity to say that, that each individual house has a different set of circumstances that aren't simply about repairing the sidewalk. So thank you again.
You're welcome. Yes, as an old house owner myself, it's, you try to do plan A, and then you discover B, C, D, E, F, G, and H, and there you go.
You know exactly what I mean.
Yes, I do know. I had a clay water line break on me that I didn't know I had in my property. Okay, so again, as we said, did you want to say something? Then come on up. Don't forget to give your name, and obviously I know you live in Oregon City, but give your name for the record.
My name is Stephen Dilly, I live in Oregon City. I'm a neighbor across the street from the folks we all know we're talking about, and I just question two things. This apparently is complaint-driven code enforcement. He is no more ADA an issue than I am. You've seen him walk in the neighborhood. And so how is it he's able to make those complaints stick, number one? And it's so obvious that they're punitive because he got stuck with something. He's going to nail the rest of us in the neighborhood. So I just wonder, is there any way that adjustments could be made in who qualifies to make these code enforcement calls on that? I mean, how does he just walk around? He's been there for 10 years. Now all of a sudden, in one day, he decided that there was 62 different spots in the neighborhood that needed repair. And that's beside the issue of a 1/4-inch lip being an ADA issue. I mean, everybody going into it, to their home, has got a lip that's higher than that. And so maybe that needs to be looked at as well. So I don't know. I think that's about all I had to say.
I'm not sure that I can answer that question. Maybe staff can.
I'm sorry, ma'am?
I said, I'm not sure we can answer that question. Maybe staff can.
But I just want to throw it out there. It does seem to be a complaint driven, but it's ADA complaint. Well,
you're saying he's able-bodied?
He's able-bodied, right. He's got something wrong with his head, but not his body. But all right, I guess that's all I got. Thank you.
Are you wanting to say something again?
I just wanted to add that.
Just say your name again.
Scott Dunphy.
Yeah.
That on the question of ADA compliance, I certainly have great empathy in that regard. My first wife, before she died, spent many years in a wheelchair. And I'm assuming my neighbors care about that as well. But to expect the homeowners to take an historic district to the level of being ADA compliant when this is a bigger infrastructure issue than just the particular little part of a sidewalk that might be in front of my house. And there's got to be a bigger solution to addressing this if ADA compliance is the issue. than just the homeowners doing that. Somehow, and this isn't about code enforcement, this is about a justice issue as far as I'm concerned, then the city needs to come alongside and be part of that solution.
Well,
And-
if you heard the city manager saying, basically, when we do projects where there are non-compliant curbs, we
I
fix it.
understand, yeah.
You know, we
Yeah.
do it as part of the project, but
Yeah.
we're not randomly going out and just doing them because it's economies of scale in terms of
There
when
needs
we're
to
doing
be
the construction.
a whole plan for
So we
saying,
do.
yes,
We have a plan.
that's the goal.
There are still parts in Oregon City that don't have sidewalks at all.
Yeah.
But that's just the way that neighborhood was designed. If you go up to Park Place, which we incorporated, that was in the county, there are places that don't have sidewalks either. So we don't have an unlimited amount of infrastructure money, which of course, if we did, we'd love to do it, but we don't. So we do it as we can and try to spend the taxpayers' dollars, our dollars, as efficiently as we possibly can.
Well-
So we are addressing it. But this is really something that's outside of all of that. And I know that the Americans with Disabilities Act is quite broad. Am I correct? There are a lot of things that it requires. I don't know if you read in the paper a few months ago, years ago, that somebody was going around targeting businesses and,
that.
you know, again, abuse of the whole ADA thing. But we're doing the best we can.
Well, so are we.
Yeah, I know,
Okay.
I know. Like I said, I own an old house. I understand that. Okay, well, thank you, everybody. We will be getting back to you. As you said, we're going to be discussing this at least somewhat on our next work session, which is next week. So I'm going to go on to item number 5. We have some presentations, and I'd like to call up our staff, Hannah Schmidt, and our Youth Advisory Chair and Vice Chair, Julian and Miles.
Good evening, Mayor McGriff, City Commissioners, Hannah Schmidt, the Community Engagement Specialist. I am here tonight with the Youth Advisory Commission to support them in their annual report to the City Commission. So from here, I'll let the Chair, Julian, and the Vice Chair, Miles, take it away.
Hi, good evening, City Commissioners. I'm Julian, the Chair of the Youth Advisory Commission.
Good evening, I'm Miles, and I'm the Vice Chair of the Youth Advisory Commission.
You guys do have last names, so you should say your whole name.
Julian Garamolina, the
Miles
Chair of the
Kitty.
Youth Advisory Commission. All right. So we're here to present our annual report for the Oregon City Youth Advisory Commission. As stated in our bylaws, we are required to do one every year, so this is ours. So this is our lovely commission right here. I believe we're missing 2 commissioners from this photo. But yeah. This marks my 3rd year in the commission and also my final year as I'm a senior this year. Miles, I believe, has also been in for...
Yes, this has also been my 3rd year, and I'm going to be a senior next year. So the next commission after me when I graduate, so not this upcoming term, but the next term will be the first year where there is not a member that was part of the founding group of kids from 2 years ago.
All right. So just on the topic of some of the accomplishments that we've been able to do this year, Resolution 2505, a couple months ago, I formally requested that the City Commission could create and pass a resolution in support of banning flavored tobacco products, which, with the goal of protecting Oregon City youth. So we were able to get that passed, thankfully. As we talked about earlier, the If I Were Mayor contest, we had a couple really successful winners. Justin Evers, of course, went second in state for the multimedia presentation category. So we're very excited about that. And I believe I stated earlier too, this is the 2nd year that we've had someone go to that level. So it's really exciting, and this is something that is relatively new for us to be judging And it's just a great opportunity for us to see like the youth engagement with local government. And then the SB 702A public hearing involvement, myself and the vice chair, Miles Kinney, was able to give a testimony to the Revenue Committee to advocate for Bill 702A, which is a state level bill that would limit the sale of flavored tobacco products, which was one of our goals for this term. Miles, if you want to talk a little bit about.
So SB 702A, our resolution that would go to the city commission was a resolution to support this bill, which we testified for. We recommended, like you said, we recommended you guys, which you guys approved, that you guys should support a statewide ban on nicotine. So we went to the Capitol and testified for that, which was a great experience. And I got to meet people, and it was a fun time. And yeah.
So right here we have some photos. That's me and Miles sitting in the conference room, I believe is the right term.
Yeah.
So that's while we were waiting to go up to present. And then on the right, that's me and the mayor presenting an award to one of our winners of the If I Were Mayor contest.
Okay, so the Youth Advisory Commission has had a few event participation revolving our community, as stated in our bylaws, that it is our ideals to demonstrate the voices of the youth. So one of those is the Networking World Cafe, where it was put on by the Clackamas County Prevention Coalition and the Northwest Family Services, where we were able to get resources about people that were struggling with drug addiction, youth and adults, and it was a networking community that would help a few of our subgroups, which were focusing directly on both how homelessness can affect drug addiction, but our main focus this term was about specifically vaping, which can lead towards more drug addicted filled lives. Furthermore, we went for the second year in a row where we went to the Oregon Youth Summit. And this year we had all 13 members attend our youth summit, compared to, I believe it was 2, me and Brianna from last year.
This year?
Yeah, the chair. And so the chair and I went to that youth summit last year, and we got to meet with a few representatives, such as our state representative, Vanessa Hartman, at the day at the Capitol. And that was earlier this year, I believe in January. And we got to express some of our ideas that we were thinking of presenting for the upcoming term, specifically revolving the drug and vaping focus. And we also had a table at the Spring Forward event in March, where it was a big networking community where we expressed who we are and distributed our brochures to other community members of who we are, what we're doing for our community, and stuff like that. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, so, just continuing some of that event participation. The 2025 Cancer Action Day, which was on April 1st, some of the Youth Advisory Commissioners were able to go to the Capitol with the American Society to lobby for Senate Bill 702. I was not able to attend that one, but Miles, you were there, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to talk a little bit about
the Cancer Action
Day? Yeah.
Okay. So on April 1st, a few Youth Advisory Commissioners went down to the Capitol for our first lobbying of SB 702 before me and Julian did a testimony for the actual committee, or the Senate committee hearing about it. So in this, on Cancer Action Day, which I believe happens every year, we were invited by the American Cancer Society to lobby for not only 702A, but a few other bills that they were thinking about supporting or wanting to support to push forward. And I believe there was like 5 or 6 other members, and we met with both sides of the aisle. So we met with both the leaders of, both sides of the aisle. And so it allows us to, if we agree with something else, it was allowing us to kind of express different views, to hear different sides of what they believed this bill was about. And it kind of opened my mind and others' minds about what both sides thought about this issue, not just what we think. In our youth meetings, we tend to kind of agree. We all have the same mindset, but hearing these different mindsets with different people we would try to talk to allowed us to have a more open mind towards our initial goal.
Another one of the, not necessarily events, but just things that we were able to participate in was the suicide prevention app listening session. So we actually had a special meeting for this. And it was a really cool opportunity for us to talk with some people from the county level about an app that they were trying to start. So we were able to do a sort of a test drive of the app, go through, like the different functions and give tips or advice on what we think should be changed or added or removed. And in my opinion, I think it was one of the most mind-opening meetings that we'd had. It was a really cool opportunity to be able to give, good criticism. And I feel like we were able to give them good advice that would hopefully make the app better. I believe they haven't released the app yet, but from what I remember, they said that they would let us see it once they had released it. So I'm excited for next year's commission to be able to see that.
So when we have our meetings, which is every month, every meeting we tend to have a speaker or a presenter which would aid us towards decisions we were making. So this was one of our presentations, was this app. And we've had a few people such as the Clackamas clerk, county elections clerk, as well as a few other people to help aid us about other things such as I believe we had someone which was about our nicotine prevention bill. I forgot who it was, but we did have someone come in to explain this other side that's trying to help us push for the same thing we're trying to do. So that's one of them.
So right here we have some images from previous. We have on the bottom left, I believe that's the Cancer Action Day. And then on the top, or on the right, we have 2 different images from the Youth Summit that we had. So on the top, I believe that's us with Senator Meek. It was a really cool opportunity to get to meet him. We talked to him and Representative Anessa Hartman. And then on the bottom is, I was given an opportunity to talk a little bit about what we were doing this year up to that point. So that's me with some other Oregon youth city commissioners, or chairs of their youth commissions. So it was a really cool opportunity to see the other people that are doing the same thing that I am. Some of the important takeaways that we have from this year, we set goals early, and Mayor McGriff and Commissioner Morrow can talk about this a little bit more, but definitely that first year, it was really hard to figure out what we wanted to do. And I remember it took a pretty decent amount of meetings to finally figure out what we wanted to orient our goals on. So with this year, one of the things that we were working really hard on was setting our goals early so that we'd have as much time as possible to go forward with them. We also implemented working groups. Miles touched on this a little bit. We had 3 this year. We had the Youth Election Involvement Working Group, the Youth Homelessness Working Group, and the Youth Mental and Physical Health Working Group. It was basically just an opportunity for us to divide the work that we do, to give members of the Youth Commission an opportunity to focus on what would be the most interesting to them. Miles was a part of the Youth Election Involvement Working Group, if you want to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so my working group was especially working towards getting youth more involved with a loose goal of we were trying to figure out ways that we could lobby certain ways to get the voting age lowered to 16 for school board elections, doing research on that, meeting people, talking to people, figuring out like what's the process of that and what's the process of changing legislation like that and so forth. So when we met with the election clerk, Catherine McMullen, she explained that process a little bit, and it's a more broad issue that we couldn't really tackle on, but with a more loose goal of trying to get youth more involved, since voter apathy and apathy within young generations is very high, and there's not a lot of youth willing to get involved. But the other working groups have been planning other events and trying to figure out their goals, but I'm not part of that, so I can't speak for them.
Yeah, so for the Youth Homelessness Working Group, they contacted a lot of the local organizations that the city works with. Father's Heart was a big one, but their goal was mostly just to see what we could do to, help lower the rates of youth houselessness in Oregon City. So I believe we had 2 different presentations for that working group, but it was just a good opportunity for us to see the ways that these private organizations work with the city. And then the Youth Mental and Physical Health Working Group. Of course, the suicide prevention app, that was one of the presentations that we had specifically for that working group. And their main goal was to encourage, youth to go out and engage with their community in a physical way, to encourage the youth to go and participate in sports, or to use the local city facilities that we have, Parks and Rec. And then, while I wasn't a part of any of the working groups, I was focused on the youth nicotine addiction, which is, that was a significant part of what we did this year. Another important takeaway from this year was taking a step back from doing multiple events and leaning into our advisory and advocacy positions. The first 2 years of the Youth Advisory Commission, we focused a lot of our energy and resources into doing our own events, which I was really grateful for. I think the first one we did was the mental health fair, right? Something we talked about a lot this year was what our position is as youth advisory commissioners. And while I'm very, very grateful that we were able to put on these events these last 2 years, we felt that it was more important for us to be in an advocacy position, working with other groups and being a part of events that were already planned, to just give a focus to, youth issues. And then I think, in my opinion, one of the biggest takeaways from this year was using opportunities to do extra meetings outside of the once-a-month minimum that we have. It's really hard to get work done with only 1 meeting a month. So I think we did 5 extra meetings this year. And we, of course, are always encouraged to keep doing work outside of the meetings, because that's when things really get done.
I know you were being modest, but you didn't mention the fact that you were leading the clothing drive that you also had.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, we did the clothing drive. Was it with Jennings Lodge, right? Yeah, that was one of the first things that we had did this year, wasn't it? But yeah, that was one of the events that we were able to be a part of too. It was a really good opportunity to actually go out and be boots on the ground, like being there, helping set up, and different stuff like that. So it was a really good opportunity to like give those resources to the people that needed it.
Basically, our first 2 years, we're trying to figure out who we are and what we wanted to do and kind of do more like community events like the clothing drive and other things. But definitely this year we took a different approach and we're more focusing on advocacy and trying to establish positions and routes that future term, so next term and the next term, would focus on and work on for the future. So setting goals that weren't just like this year, like we had only like, let's say 7 months to do it, but goals that would take years to do and something that we truly care about and want to advocate for.
Do you guys have any questions for us?
Well, we don't, but we know you're doing lots of great work. Commissioner Morrow wants to say one thing and then we're going to move on. So we've got 3 presentations tonight.
So thank you for the presentation. What they just talked about turning into more of an advocacy role is exactly what I had envisioned when I was writing all this out. And so I've been very pleased to see you lean into that. And as an example, Miles, I think you've been able to come visit me at my office in the state capitol 3 times already. Julian, yes. I think you've been twice. And so when they talked about lobbying at the state capitol, I actually took the meeting for my boss on behalf of her because she was busy. They were going late voting on bills, and so I got to meet with them and they got to lobby me on the bill and I got to relay that to my boss, which was a really cool experience. On the topic of coming to the Capitol, I didn't hear about an exclusive behind-the-scenes tour of the Capitol.
Oh, gee. Oh.
No, that's very, 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 very true. Adam did give us a great tour, actually. I remember because we went to both the House and the Senate side of the Capitol. But yeah, Adam did give us a tour to all the Youth Advisory Commissioners, so it was a really good opportunity.
He gave us a little like peek into behind the scenes.
Right.
Little special thing for our city commissioner to give, and we're thankful for that.
Yeah, I remember when me and Miles were walking to your office after doing the testimony for 702A, we were looking at the carpet because you had mentioned the importance of like the images that are on the carpet. I was like, oh yeah, I remember Adam had like taught us about this when he'd given us a tour. So no, it was a really great opportunity.
Yeah, I just really want to say thank you to you and to the other members of the Youth Advisory Commission. I've been able to join in some of your meetings, and it's just really great seeing youth in our community taking the time and the energy to do the work you're doing. I think it's amazing, and thank you.
Thank you so much.
Also, thank you for also being advocates for the Youth Advisory Commission. So I've been out at the schools as well as you have. Still haven't gotten any response from Oxla. So if you're out there, Oxla,
yeah, I guess that's one
I
thing
may
we
just
could
have to
mention.
go over and knock on the door. I think that's what I'm going to have to do.
We've been trying to recruit more members at the middle schools, so Gardner and Tumwater, and we spoke to both. I guess that's something else we could mention.
But thank you for that. So thank you for the report, and we'll see you next week at the regular meeting. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Did you want to say something?
I just echo the thank yous, and I know if this group existed when I was in high school, I would have been on it. I know that Adam would have probably as well. When Adam brought this idea, and I mean, this is an idea that was talked about for years, a lot of years, and the people that are involved in creating it, and the students like you that have taken such a leadership role, I'm so glad and so excited about it. It's shocking the amount that you've accomplished, and you may not think how much it is, but you know, how many schools have this? And at one time, prior to Commissioner Morrow, we talked about, as a commission, having just a single student liaison to the commission, similar to what the school district had at the time. I never thought it would be this involved, and I never thought it would be this successful, and I'm so thankful for it. And being at the high school as much as you are, and having my students come up and talk to me about things about the city and know what they're working on, some of which I have no idea that they're working on, is amazing. And I just, it's gonna be successful as long as students like you are involved in it.
We thank you for your time.
Thank you.
So just for the records, there are other youth advisory commissions. Hillsborough's had one for a long time, but Lake Oswego, Tigard, Happy Valley has another one that's been there for a while. Eugene, Gresham, Cornelius, Hermiston, just to name a few. So this is something that has a lot of value, and we appreciate and thank you, Justin, for coming, and congratulations on your award. So we have some very eager people, and we'd love to get more people involved, but you know, as a senior and junior, those guys are busy, I'm telling you. So Ann, do you want to come on up with Josh for the next presentation? And do you have something written for us? Do you have a written report? I did not see a written report in the packet. So my request for future presentations by these advisory committees, we would like to have something written. It's just nicer to have. So in future, not just you, I said this to the last group that came up last month. I said we would appreciate having a written report. So Ann, take it away, please.
Well, good evening, and happy to be here with Josh Planton, who is the chair of the Arts Commission. My name's Ann Griffin. I'm in the Economic Development Department, and I serve as the liaison to the Arts Commission. So take it away, Josh.
Thank you. My name is Josh Planton. I am chair of the Oregon City Arts Commission. I'll try and be very concise in my slides. I know you are probably running a little behind on the agenda.
You're fine.
But so for those of you who might remember, the Oregon City Arts Commission was reestablished in 2021. 9 members were appointed to the commission at that point. The main purpose of the Arts Commission coming back was handling the approval of mural applications. In that time, we worked at establishing bylaws, mission statement, running several grant programs, and supporting Oregon City departments on art-related projects. Current list of commissioners there are on the right. One note I wanted to point out was that it's a very active group, both in the meetings and outside the meetings. This number, the 250 hours of volunteer, is probably old at this point. We're probably closer to 350 hours of volunteering, not including meetings themselves. So lots of time spent trying to work through various different projects. First thing, major thing that I've kind of been working on the last year to 18 months is we did a audit of the existing Oregon City artwork. We commissioned a report from Kathy Rowe. That report, which is located at the link at the bottom of the page there, outlined 136 pieces of public art in the Oregon City collection. Several of these pieces are located around town. Others are located within storage. There might be renderings of murals that are painted on buildings that were painted originally as a mock-up of the mural. We reviewed this report, identified several pieces that needed repair or were in dire need of repair. In May and June of last year, we then applied for some additional Oregon City Enhancement Grant Committee funds that we added to our non-discretionary funds from the 2023-2025 budget to establish a restoration grant program. That program we launched in late 2024, early 2025. We issued a call for artists to identify potential individuals who could support the restoration of murals and other art in Oregon City. Those names then were shared with grant applicants who wanted to, maybe have a mural in their building restored. They were then given the information to the artists, and the artists could collaborate with them on possible options for doing so. We've received several grant applications back, which the city staff has been overseeing the management of. We have 2 of those are murals, which we will be meeting tomorrow night to discuss and possibly approve. The last one is the Salmon Bench, which, if you're familiar with it, is located on 7th Street, just in front of Mike's Drive-In. In addition to that, we also did another repair of a piece of artwork in Oregon City. Ancient Voices, which was a statue, a cement statue that was located on 7th Street. Originally, it was located up by close to the library. It got struck by a vehicle. It wasn't too bad need of repair. It got moved trying to avoid it getting hit again, and then it got hit again, this time beyond repair. We tried reaching out also to the artists who created it. Unfortunately, they are living overseas now, so they could not support trying to restore or replicate the piece of art. So we went back to identifying a new piece that could go in its place. Using the funds from the city's insurance payout, as well as a grant from the Enhancement Grant Committee, we did a call for artists and a statue to replace it. Ultimately, we ended up going with Jenny Ellsworth, a local sculptor. If you're familiar with her work, it's mainly in metal, which we hope will hold up better to future accidents. We worked very closely with the with the McLaughlin Neighborhood Association on selecting the final artist, which is called Elemental Love, which we unveiled at the end of last year. We had about 70 participants attend that event, which was a great turnout. Lots of people, especially around the holidays, that close to Christmas, it's great to have that many people come out and appreciate the unveiling of the art piece. And then we had drinks and refreshments at the City Hall afterwards. In terms of where we stand now on the rest of the projects, we're trying to wrap up by the end of the biennium. We have a new website that we're creating. It's being created right now. I forget the gentleman's name, David.
Staying creative.
Yeah. They're helping us create the new website, which we'll be managing going forward, also establishing our own social media presence. The agreement was signed with the city departments and established earlier this year. We're hoping to launch that site by the end of, or we'll need to launch it by the end of June, so, but it's coming along very well as of now. The other item is a 6x6 art show fundraiser. So this is if you're familiar with the concept of 6x6, is 6 inches by 6 inch panel. You hand out we handed out total 317 panels to roughly 80 artists or Oregon City citizens. They then will paint on those murals, return the murals to us. We'll put them up in a space where people can come look at the art, and then at a given point, once everyone is notified, simply taking the art off the wall, and then they can purchase that art. 50% of that fees will go towards the Oregon City Schools Foundation. The other 50% will go to the artist, which is also unique in our program versus normal 6x6 art shows. Normally, everything goes to the fundraising entity, not to the artist. So we wanted to make sure that the artist did get something in return. I think as of today, we're at 290 returned pieces, which is pretty remarkable percentage-wise in these events. Normally, you're probably thinking 70-75% return rate. So we're closer in the 90s. The event's taking place on June 14th at the ArcLight event space in Oregon City from 6 to 9 p.m. We encourage everyone to attend. We'll have live music, food, and then there will be drinks available, but also there is a bar that you'll have to pay for. City won't be funding that part of it. And then the final piece is we did an Art for Every Heart, which is the motto we came up with last year as kind of a tagline for the Oregon City Arts Commission. We did a contest for kids to send in their own artwork that they thought represented that motto. That closes today. I'm not sure how many responses we have, but part of our plan tomorrow is to review and select a winner, which then will be announced at the 6x6 fundraiser event.
And I really want to, I'd like to thank Josh and everybody who serves on the Arts Commission. They are definitely a hard-working bunch. I mean, your 300-plus hours is not an exaggeration. We realized that we wanted to reach each of our objectives, not only art restoration and new art, but just getting people to think about art or get engaged in art in a new way in our community. And I feel like they are a hardworking group that is successfully doing that.
So just, you might want to make just a small correction. So the 6x6 is not a mural. You did mention the word mural. I think it's because we've got
Oh,
murals
did I
on
say
the brain.
mural? Oh,
Yeah,
I
you said murals.
apologize.
There's 6x6.
Too many projects.
I know, too many panels, yes. And so since Commissioner Morrow gets to do shameless promotion, so I am the liaison from the City Commission to the Arts Commission. And as you can imagine, I do participate somewhat because I want to make sure that they are successful, and that's really my goal, is to make sure that they are successful. But we have great staff in place with Ann leading the charge and Mr. Graham also supporting them. So we want to thank you for all your work, and we appreciate everything that you're doing, and we'll look forward to because the 14th is coming right up. It's right around the corner.
Yeah, right around the corner.
Yeah, so make sure you give me an easy job to do. You know, I'm really good as
We've got you on the list. Yeah, I'll be sending out a reminder.
I'm a good greeter, yeah. So anyway, thank you. All right. Thank you, Ann.
Oh, one more slide, sorry. Just in terms of looking forward, so after we get through the bump in our work that is June 30th, looking forward, we will be, I need to move the right slide forward. Our plan is to start focusing on the next biennium objectives. One of those is establishing a 5-year strategic plan, looking at a long-term goals and objectives to try and promote art in Oregon City. We also want to look at updating or suggesting updates to the Oregon City Municipal Code, that is both the Oregon City Arts Commission Charter and the murals. The 20+ years there references the actual Oregon City Arts Commission Charter, which actually references things that are no longer in existence. So we want to make sure that we provide some proposed updates to that, which we're working through now. Further development of partnerships. We have done several partnerships that are more project, short-term focused, but building longer-term relationships with other organizations working with art in and around Oregon City. Enhancing our presence in Oregon City, educating the public on the importance of public art. I've been fortunate enough to be able to travel all over the world. I've been, probably 40 different countries in my lifetime, and I've been able to see a lot of great cities with great art and public art, and I'd love to see more of that brought back to Oregon City. And then also working on some updated protocols to help with efficiencies and promote transparencies. I heard the Youth Advisory group say, it's a lot of work to do in 1-hour meetings once a month. So if we can strategically make those more streamlined processes that are still transparent, we can hopefully save ourselves time and get things done in a more reasonable timeline. And finally, securing additional funds. I'd like to first say thank you to the mayor and the city commissioners and to the budget committee for allocating the budget next year or the next biennium for the Oregon City Arts Commission. When comparing it to others, though, it's still, there's still some work we need to do to try and secure additional funds to do more projects. Just for comparison purposes, the Westland and Lake Oswego both have the benefit of receiving funds from a Percentage for the Arts programs. That brings Westland's budget to something like $150,000 for the annual year, not the biennium, but the annual year. Lake Oswego's is somewhere in the $430,000 range, compared to what, if we break it down, is about $25,000 for Oregon City. So we're looking at places where we can go and receive grants for additional public art performances, murals, statues, and anything else that we seem to think we need in the city. So that is a big objective for our next few months. And with that, if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Just really quickly.
We're going to have a couple of comments, but then we're going to move on. So thank you.
First of all, could you talk a little more about what activities, for example, were involved with those volunteer hours that you mentioned outside of the meetings? Because I think that's incredible. And then the other thing is, could you talk about what you're doing to promote arts beyond just the visual arts. You kind of just got to that performing arts. Talk a little bit about that, please.
Yeah, so in terms of the hours, I can speak a lot to my, to my own work. Most weeks I'm focused on whether it's logistics stuff for the 6x6 art show, putting together a run of show, MC notes, developing a volunteer list and reaching out to try and identify volunteers for that. I also, we have ongoing discussions with city staff a lot of the time outside of our meetings to go over issues. We had to have some additional clarification from time to time on different items like the murals and the mural code and our role within that and how we, handle grants and murals, because it becomes a bit complicated once you start getting into the weeds in it. So there's all sorts of things like that that come up. I and at least one other commissioner have met with other Oregon cities, arts commissions, so Lake Oswego, West Lynn, Wilsonville. We're trying to, even meet with some as far as Hillsborough, who have done great work in their projects and try and get better understanding of what they've done that's been successful, so we don't have to reinvent the wheel. So a lot of that is just takes up a lot of time and work. And then in terms of, promoting art beyond murals and sculptures, so we have the band coming up. We also funded Porch Fest. We did several grants for an event. We did Juneteenth, and then we did, I'm blanking on the name of the...
Right, so in the 23 year, when we did the Oregon City Arts grants, we helped work with the Willamette Falls Studios. They had and helped them with their ADA accessibility. Josh mentioned Porch Fest, which is continuing to grow, but launched with an Arts Commission grant. We also supported a coloring book that was designed by a local artist. And
what was the one that Tammy did? She did like 4 events that were cultural events.
I'm
blanking on the name of it, but yeah. Sorry. We know that it is identified in several places that Oregon City community members would like to see more performing arts in Oregon City, and so we are looking to do that. We tried to get a grant for a couple authors to come in and talk about their work and their different cultural heritage or experiences in life. Unfortunately, we didn't get that grant, so we'll try again to get the funding some other way, but looking to expand it beyond just the...
Yeah, you need to be working with the library on that. They already do that.
Yeah,
we don't want to reinvent the wheel.
Right. Yeah, but I think you're right. It is more than visual art. I think, music and dance and the people are very well aware of the whole spectrum. And it can even be small things, just, advertising has art in it. And it has a greater economic impact than we sometimes realize.
Mr. Smith, did you want to say? I thought you had your...
No.
Yeah, okay,
No,
all right.
good.
So thank you again. Yes, again, the library does a great program. They have diversity books projects out there every month that they list, and I don't know if you were aware of that, but I go over there every month just to see which ones they have.
And we've talked to them, and again, that kind of goes along with the partnerships, understanding what others are doing so we don't duplicate, but either enhance or fill in the gaps.
Yeah, and just for the record, I want the public to know that the website that they're working on is going through the city staff, and Jared Lehman's been working with them, so it's not something separate. It'll be integrated into what we're already doing so that there's consistent message and all of that, but the Arts Commission is helping write some of the content because they know more about art than some of the rest of us, so that's really great. So thank you again, and I'll see you next week, this week.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yes, tomorrow. Tomorrow's already here. So next we have on our agenda the Clackamas Heights Affordable Housing Project, and I don't know who is here because I didn't get a chance to go over and introduce myself to you, so I have no idea, so sorry. And is the clicker still there? Yes. So this project for me precedes COVID, where I went over and walked the grounds with the staff who's probably no longer there, walked around and we talked about the plans and everything, and then we had COVID and the project got postponed. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourselves?
Good evening, Commissioners, Mayor McGriff. I'm Devin Ellen. I'm the Housing Development Director with the Housing Authority of Clackamas County. And I'm joined tonight by Brian Squalache with Bora Architecture, and they're the project architect. And so we're here tonight to talk about the redevelopment of the Clackamas Heights Public Housing Community, which is located in the Park Place neighborhood of Oregon City. Clackamas Heights was built in the early 1940s and is the oldest public housing in Oregon. Under the public housing program, the Housing Authority barely receives enough money to maintain the property to meet basic life and safety thresholds. This came into clear focus during the 2021 ice storms and prompted the county to begin working toward a solution. Next slide.
So what happened in the ice storm that prompted this specifically?
It became apparent like the units didn't have insulation, they don't have foundations, so people got real cold when they lost power. So last summer, the Housing Authority submitted a Section 18 disposition application to HUD, which will allow us to remove the restrictive public housing covenant on the property, and that was approved late last year. Meanwhile, the Housing Authority and Bora have been working with the community to redesign the underutilized property to accommodate more families, more amenities, and provide new housing that is welcoming, safe, and energy efficient. We've now finalized the design, which we'll be sharing with you shortly. Here's a little teaser for you. And Bora is working on finalizing the construction documents. We plan to submit for building permits next week, and we're targeting construction start in November of this year. And units will begin coming online mid-2027, so we'll be housing folks in phases. On the relocation side, we've relocated about 30% of the residents at Clackamas Heights, and we're aiming to complete relocation by the end of September. Each household being relocated is offered a Section 8 rental voucher and provided assistance with finding and moving into a new unit. And all residents will be given the first opportunity to move back to the redeveloped site once it's complete. This shows the current layout of the site and the surrounding neighborhood and amenities. You can see it's mostly surrounded by single-family homes and a couple small businesses. The property is bounded by Holcomb Boulevard to the south, Apperson to the east, or to the west rather, Gain Street to the north, and Front Street to the east. A robust community engagement process was an integral part of shaping the layout and design of the redevelopment. This included 2 listening sessions, several one-on-one interviews with community organizations and service providers, 3 surveys that went out to the neighborhood and residents, 6 2-hour workshops with our resident advisory committee, 2 open houses, 3 presentations to the Park Place Neighborhood Association, and I guess 2 city council presentations. So I'll pass it over to Brian to talk about the design.
Sounds great. Thanks, Devin. All right. I guess I just want to start by saying how amazing the residents at Clackamas Heights are. Those that we interacted with in the resident advisory committee were warm, they were welcoming, they clearly have a good amount of trust with the Housing Authority already. These are incredibly personal conversations that we're having with people that involve real life stresses as far as having to move, being displaced. You know, some of these residents have lived at Clackamas Heights for over 20 years at this point. And folks came to the table with real concerns and voiced those and listened to the responses, and were able to engage in really positive and meaningful ways to impact the design and the way that we learned about the site and the community that was there, and were able to design in a way that would bolster that moving forward. Here are a few of the themes that came out of a lot of those discussions as we met with those residents and different neighbors in the neighborhood. We heard a lot about the beauty that is currently on the site, the mature trees that are there, and a desire to keep those and to design the new homes in ways that would connect to the site and to the broader neighborhood. To really encourage some moments to contemplate and to celebrate together and to bring those neighbors together, and to think about not just the scale of the development, but ways of kind of breaking that down in a way that that feels humane and pedestrian and has thoughtful little details kind of integrated within and throughout. We heard a lot about, not just from the residents currently, but the neighbors, about how they walk through the site when they're on their way to the bus stop along Holcomb, or how they cut through the site on their way to the park, just to the northeast of us. And they wanted to maintain kind of that feeling of openness and welcome throughout the site. There we go, sorry. As we translate that into inspiration for the design, as Devin said, the majority of the neighborhood is single-family homes. And so we looked at the traditional forms of those homes, leaning into front porches and gable roofs where we can, thinking again about those connections to the site and the landscape. This is a 25-acre site. It really is like living in a park, and in our opinion and what we heard from the residents, it shouldn't be just for the desert residents, it should be for the broader neighborhood as well. We talked quite a bit about the pedestrian scale in that third diagram over there. We were leveraging the new state code, which allows for middle housing development in residential neighborhoods, and we're using what's considered a cottage cluster, so groups of 3 to 4 plexes arranged around courtyards. Each of those little orange and blue symbols in that diagram there is one of those cottage clusters. We then thought about how that scales across a site of this size, where we have nearly 20 of those clusters. So using them to build larger kind of urban blocks that are around shared green spaces, and then how to stitch those blocks together in ways that really encourage pedestrian safety and interconnection, and build kind of larger social infrastructure across the site. And then finally there is leaning into contemporary interpretations of those traditional forms. This is not only an aesthetic charge and direction that resonated with the residents, but is also a real strategy towards cost efficiency as we think about how we're shepherding public funds and how we can simplify some of those traditional forms to stretch those dollars towards other goals for sustainability and resilience and that social infrastructure, which I was mentioning. With the residents, we talked about 3 initial schemes, as you can kind of see over on the left there in black and white, different ways of engaging the site and thinking about this scale and how we really bring people together. And what came out of those conversations was really a hybrid option, which is on the right there. And what you're seeing in that green kind of polygon going around the site is a pedestrian circulation loop that's completely separated from the vehicular infrastructure. We are putting in new streets that extend the orthogonal street grid of the neighborhood, straightening out what currently are curvilinear streets. This actually helped distribute some of the vehicular traffic through the site. And then at the mid-block of each of those new vehicular streets, we have a pedestrian crossing where that green loop kind of connects and comes into play. Those are tabled intersections. They're raised up, acting as a large speed bump midway through each one of those blocks in order to calm that traffic. And then as you walk around the site on that green loop, which is roughly 1/3 of a mile long, there's a string of different amenity spaces, community gardens, small parks for different ages of children, a sport court, as well as a community building that you can see in pink there. As we look to a rendered site plan here, you can see each of those small white rectangles there are the 3 and 4 plexes, which we talked about. Together, those form smaller courtyards, which are off of that larger pedestrian loop that goes around the entirety of the site. The Housing Authority will be maintaining their current offices. You can see in the upper right corner, number 9 there. That is the existing Housing Authority office building, which will stay on site. As well as to the south of that is the new community building where there'll be additional offices for resident services and property management provided, in addition to amenities and gathering spaces for residents. Here's just one example of kind of one of our typical buildings. We have unit sizes, home sizes that range from 1 to 4 bedrooms, and they're arranged together into these fourplexes where you can see each one at the top of the screen here has its own private entry off of the adjacent street. And then to the bottom, on what really is kind of the back of each of these houses, residents have their own private porches that face into their courtyard that they'll share with up to 11 other neighbors. As we look across the entirety of the site, again, we're really thinking about cost efficiency and how we can generate a neighborhood that feels natural and diverse and has kind of the scale of the adjacent homes, but also has some variety to it to mix with those cost efficiencies. So we have a few different roof forms, building orientations, and a palette of about 4 to 5 colors that we're working through and have already gotten some input from residents on our last open house. At the heart of the community and kind of connecting that pedestrian loop from west to east across the site is really kind of this central park. On the west side of this image would be Apperson Boulevard. On the left side, on the right side would be Front Street. And connecting the two from left to right, we have community gardens, a large central green space, one of those tabled intersections, the pedestrian crossing at the mid-block of one of our new streets. Our sport court is letter C, the community building is letter A, the largest playground is letter B on the site. So really thinking about a variety of amenity spaces that'll support residents of different ages and abilities and welcome the other neighbors in the Park Place neighborhood to come and meet the residents who live here and enjoy the site for themselves as well. Here's a rendering of that community building looking across our largest playground that's on site. And with that, we'd welcome any comments or questions that you might have.
And plant big trees.
We're maintaining a lot of large trees that are out there, many of the large trees.
I'm looking at the ones in the picture and I'm assuming those
quite a few of those in the foreground are actually
there.
the existing trees that will remain. Yes.
Question, go ahead.
Yep.
2 quick questions. What is the current number of units and what will it be after the project is complete? And then also, what is the anti-displacement strategy as the construction is going on for the current tenants?
So there's currently 99 units, and we will be replacing it with 200 new units. And so currently we're working through relocation with all the existing residents. So we provide them with a Section 8 voucher to provide rental assistance. We pair them with a relocation consultant, and we cover moving costs and deposits and everything they need in order to get into a new home. We also make sure that, we work with them to find housing. And then, like I said, we give them the option to move back once the construction's complete.
Thank you.
Yeah, your question involved something that I asked him. Actually, Devin was able to answer that because one of the things that I heard a lot from the members up there is that they have a community and now they're getting displaced out all over the place. So they've lost that support group that they have, and we don't have enough units in our area to accommodate so that they can be anywhere. I'm hoping that a lot of them will come back because that's important. But I think one of the things that I saw on this is probably the 3rd iteration I've seen of the sketches. So are you going to put solar on a lot of those flat roofs? I think that would help cut down costs. Looks like there's a lot of good orientation there.
There is, and the roofs are oriented as such. We're currently planning for solar panels to cover the entirety of the community loads, which would be the community building, all of the site utilities, and other things that the Housing Authority would be responsible for. And the remainder of the buildings will be made solar ready with conduit running to the roofs and all the infrastructure in place to add photovoltaics to serve the actual resident loads of the units if funding were to become available for that. We would be able to achieve very close to net zero energy on this development if that funding were secured.
And then something else that's really important to me is not having all of this stuff from the buildings go to Boardman. So what is the plan for deconstruction?
There is no deconstruction legislation to support and necessitate that.
I'm not asking that, whether
However,
there's legislation.
However, yes, absolutely. Within our construction specifications, we outline various pathways for recycling of various materials that are on site to the extent that's possible. The hazardous materials will be abated initially, and then anything that can be recycled will be diverted from the landfill.
So your contractor's going to have different containers, so the windows can go here. I mean, some of the siding's not bad. I mean, I've been up there a lot.
Yeah.
And, that's a lot of stuff. We don't need it going trucked out to Boardman.
Certainly.
And I feel like some things like that should be just normal, particularly in your field, rather than having to have ordinances requiring people to do it. It should be just something we just do, because, we don't want it to go there. And then my last question is, I think, Devin, last time we chatted, we were talking about Oregon City View Manor. That's the other facility, and is that still on track to be sold privately and move all those people? Hopefully they'll move into the new places, which would be great. And then do you have some specific ideas that the Housing Authority is going to require whoever purchased that, you're going to build this, as opposed to just, it's hopefully not market rate, but.
So we are offering any folks interested in moving to the new Park Place development from Oregon City View Manor, they'll be given, first chance to do that. And we're holding off on relocating anyone from Oregon City View Manor until the project's complete. As such, we don't really have a plan yet for the sale of that property. We're not planning to redevelop it. We've heard from the county commissioners that they're interested in at least having a portion of the site preserved for affordable homeownership opportunities. And, we're really dipping our toe into that world now with the disposition of our scattered sites and partnering with community land trusts. So I think that, that will certainly be an option when the time comes. The neighbors have expressed interest in the city purchasing part of the site for a park. So we've heard that at our community meetings as well.
Yeah, that area is park deficient, unfortunately, but, again, we inherited that from the county, and we're still trying to play catch up with, a lot of the stuff that happened up there that, was more urbanized than it probably should have been, but, we're getting there. Any other questions? Okay, all right, we'll move on. Thank you so much for giving us an update. I appreciate it, and we'll look forward to seeing you again in the near future when you get to the next phase. We really want to keep in touch. I hear a lot from residents in Park Place about this. They have not, with the exception of one person, I would say it's all been very positive, and I appreciate the outreach that you've been doing to the neighborhood association, because they feel, very committed to working with you on this, and it's just great that you guys have been able to do that. So much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, now for the fun part. So item 7, we have a number of items on the consent agenda. And do we have anything that we want to have further discussion about? I'd like to have further discussion about item F. Everything else looks pretty good to me.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda minus item F.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, Mr. Wiley?
Commissioner Scott Wilson.
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Adam Marl.
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell.
Aye.
And Mayor Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right. Since we don't have a time certain for that, I want to go ahead and ask our intrepid and very tirelessly working manager of our parking program to come up now and talk about 13. And I think you guys have been doing some great work. And I think what you're proposing here sounds really amazing. And I think there's a few other things that you want to tell us about. So go right ahead, Mr. Kersey, and thank you for coming back up.
Thank you for having me here tonight. I'll have Chief Davis open it up for us.
Mayor, Commission, good evening. We have a proposal that we put forward, and it's based on a parking study that was done in 2022 by Rick Williams. One of the strategies of that parking study was to reduce on-street permits issued in the downtown area. With that, and when the courthouse has now vacated, that opened up our municipal lot to a lot more opening parking. Primarily during the days, that was jury parking. And with that, with the move and no more jury, there's a lot more room. So with that strategy, Code Enforcement Manager Ryan Kersey was looking at ways to implement this parking strategy. And one of those was to, he saw an opportunity to move Purple Zone into the municipal lot and make that to on-street parking, which is one of the strategies of that. So I can turn it over to Ryan to answer any questions, or if you guys have questions for us.
Any questions? I know I had a couple of suggestions. So one of the concerns is that we have $5 all-day parking, and that's been able to accommodate a lot of the employees that work in that area. So there was some concern about us not keeping some of that to make that opportunity available, turning it into 2 lots, 2 hours parking spaces. Again, some of that complicates the issues that we've been dealing with on the other part of Maine, where we've got employees parking, they don't get out in time, they get cited. So is there some way that we can accommodate some of that so that we still have places for the employees? And there are a lot of employees who are down there.
Yeah, the nice part is we've been able to keep the majority, probably 95% of our permits reissued already back to employees that work down there still, not at the courthouse. So that was a really big change that we didn't know how it was going to go. I think the biggest thing speaks to the commission's decision a couple years ago to keep our permit costs the same, which is reduce the cost from what the private lots are down there. That's been a big change. And your direction from the previous parking study was anytime we get the opportunity to move those permit spots off the street, open up more street parking, that's what we're doing here today. So we're just looking for that direction and approval to do that. It's going to open up 22 spaces. It's going to move those permit spots into the municipal lot. We have 123 spaces available in the municipal lot. We'll minus 23 of those for the permit, and then we'll reopen 22 of those on 13th Street. It'll still leave almost 100 spots available in the municipal lot for anybody that wants to park, and we're not going to change any of the fees at the current time without any sort of consideration from the commission.
Okay. Well, the reason I asked that is I heard from someone who works at the Ice House, and they use the lot every shift, and had reported that there was space availability at the lot, and they're hoping that they can still continue to park there. I mean, it's obviously very convenient since it's right next door. The other question I had was, I know it's an ODOT facility, but we have lots of cars that park along McLaughlin Boulevard near where what is it?
Active water sports.
Active water sports.
Oh, yeah.
And I noticed there aren't any meters or anything over there.
Yes, currently that is all time restricted.
Oh, it's time
only.
restricted.
One of the things I think from 2 years ago with the parking study was, as the commission, you really wanted to wait till the courthouse moved, really look at the numbers again, have it studied again downtown to really consider, do we want to do anything on the north end of McLaughlin, north end of Main Street? Because there's some of the areas around Subaru, 15th, those kind of things that right now have no restrictions on hours. And some of the discussion was, well, do we want to change that to maybe putting in pay by the mobile app, or just maybe leaving like a 2-hour zone or 3-hour zone with no, hourly parking rate. So
Do we have a lot of people who work for Subaru who park down there in that?
currently, I believe the majority of the people that park right there, work at Subaru.
Or Trails End, yeah. So maybe they need to get an all-day permit thing, something or other. Gentlemen, any other questions? Any thoughts about this change? I know you did mention that we need to do an updated study. We want to make sure that we, define who benefits from the proposed change. I think that's critical. It's, in my opinion, very forward-thinking that you've been thinking about it ever since we realized at the courthouse, and you and I had discussions about, making information available for people who work downtown, and maybe maybe it's somebody who's working a shift at Coffee Rush or whatever, so that, again, we're turning over those spaces. I do know, to give you some anecdotal information, that we've got a couple of restaurants that I was at in the last quite regularly over the last month. They have seen an increase in their sales. So
Yeah, I know there's a lot more public parking available downtown. I think Juliana from Dover
Yes.
expressed the same thing, and it's great to see, and I hope it keeps expanding.
Yeah. I will say that, for the record, I won't identify him, but one of our citizens who, I called them about something else and said, by the way, we want you to get rid of all the parking meters. And I just said, well, we can't do that. We just bought some new ones. They're working, as well as possible. And we have the parking app, and so I thanked him for his comment, but I did refer him to you. I don't think he's called you or yet, but I did refer him to you. So,
I move to approve item 7F, 13th Street parking transition.
second. Okay, it's been moved and second.
Commissioner Scott Wilson. Aye. Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Adam Morrow.
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell.
Aye.
And Mayor Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, on the agenda, we have several public hearings. So we will start with the first one, which is Resolution 2514, declaring Oregon City's election to receive state shared revenues. And that would be the illustrious and infamous Finance Director, Mr. Matzuk. Show us the money.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. So tonight before you have a resolution to declare Oregon City's election to receive state share revenues. You just in your consent agenda approved a resolution to establish the eligibility to do this, and now this is a resolution to declare the actual election to receive this. In the upcoming budget, there is about $400,000 per year in state shared revenues to be received by the city, and some of the requirements other than eligibility are that we have to have levied property taxes in the previous year, which we've done, and pass a resolution approving participation in the program, which is what this does. A couple other requirements are to hold 2 hearings. One was before the Budget Committee on the possible uses of state shared revenues, and then the second hearing would be this evening here shortly regarding the proposed uses of the funds. In both the proposed and the approved budgets, the reflection of the use for these funds was towards general government services in the general fund. And so the final expectation would be to certify to the Oregon Department of Administrative Hearings this resolution if passed by July 31st of this year. So staff's recommendation is to approve resolution 2514.
Hey, commissioners, you have any questions before I open the public hearing? Okay. I will open the public hearing, and I see no one here to testify in support or against the resolution. So I will close the public hearing and ask for a motion on resolution 25-14.
Move to approve resolution 25-14.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We'll give Commissioner Wilson the win this time. All those, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Scott Wilson.
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Adam Morrow.
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell.
Aye.
And Mayor Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right. Our next public hearing is involving Resolution 2515, adopting the budget, making appropriations, imposing taxes, and categorizing taxes for the 2025-27 biennium. Mr. Zook.
Yes, thank you. Staff does recommend the approval of this. The Budget Committee approved a total budget of $319 million with a general fund operating property tax rate of $4.489 per thousand of assessed value for both fiscal years 25-26 and 26-27. As a matter of background, there were 4 Budget Committee meetings that reviewed the proposed 2025-27 budget, and the property tax was set at 4.489. The approved tax rate is below the established permanent rate of $5.05 per thousand of assessed value. There's some options for the commission tonight. We recommend that you approve as is. If there are changes, then we would go through some of the steps that we need to take in order to make those changes. But following adoption, the resolution will be filed with the Oregon Department of Revenue, Clackamas County Clerk, and the Clackamas County Assessor, as required by Oregon revised statutes. So this evening, we're recommending you approve the budget.
Okay, are there any questions of Mr. Zook before I open the public hearing? So I will open the public hearing on the resolution involving 2515, adopting the budget, making appropriations, imposing taxes, and categorizing taxes for the 2025-27 biennium. And seeing no one, I will close the public hearing and ask for a motion.
Before I make a motion, I just want to say that I appreciated the compromises that the Budget Committee made, and I think it's reflective of the values that we have as a city. I told myself I was only going to go through one of those, and this was my third time. So I really felt like I understood what we were doing this time and appreciate all the work that staff put into it. And with that, I will move to approve resolution number 2515.
Second.
Commissioner Scott Wilson.
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Adam Marl.
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell.
Aye.
And Mayor Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, so I have one more here. Oh, that's 2514. Okay, there's a lot of resolutions here to sign, so I just want to make sure I got all of them. So 2513, 2514, and 2515. Okay. Whew. All right. Next on our agenda, we have a public hearing on the first reading of ordinance 251005, a legislative update to the Parks Master Plan and ancillary document to the Oregon City 2040 Comprehensive Plan, and I'm not going to read the file number. And staff is making their way. It's a long time in coming for this, and I have to give the previous staff a bunch of kudos in getting us to the finish line. And Mr. Archer, that was very good. It was all teed up for you.
All right, thank you, Mayor McGriff, City Commissioners. I have only a few slides to talk through the process for adopting an ancillary document to the comprehensive plan. All right. That is not mine. Here we go. Okay. So the adopting amendments to the comprehensive plan as ancillary documents involve the legislative process. So last summer, the City Commission adopted the Parks Master Plan, but really the implementation of that is sending it through the land use process through a legislative approval, which formally attaches it as an ancillary document to the comprehensive plan. Legislative hearings involve a first evidentiary hearing with the Planning Commission. They approved and they recommended approval on May 12th with a vote of 6-0. The legislative process requires disclosures. Because this is legislative, you can have as many conversations as you want. There's no ex parte conversation requirements, but you need to disclose any conflict of interest. The public comment received really happened during the creation of the plan. Since the public notice came out for the legislative process, we have had no public comment submitted. So really the public comment, public engagement process was embedded in the creation of the document. So the proposal, as I mentioned, this is really implementing the last step of the adoption that happened last summer. And why master plans are adopted as ancillary documents, comprehensive plan, because these are city assets. Your sewer, water, storm, transportation, parks, these are assets the city has, and therefore they need to be attached to the comprehensive plan, which gives them kind of the full legal authority when you need to make future city decisions that are attached to your assets and when you spend city money. So what adoption of the Parks Master Plan does is it creates a long-term vision for Parks and Recreation. It ensures that the park development aligns with the broader community goals, growth pattern, and land use strategies that are found within the adopted comprehensive plan. And as I always say, you have to adopt something first before you can apply for a grant. So adopting this to the comprehensive plan allows our Parks Department to move forward and apply for any future grants to other agencies. So they want to see that this is an adopted document attached to the comprehensive plan, and any creation of system development fees, specifically related to future parks and capital improvement. What staff worked with our Parks Department over this kind of winter and spring was creating Exhibit 1A, which is attached to your agenda, and that really mapped out all identified existing parks and proposed parks, keyed them to a map, and identified kind of the proposed work plan. And that Exhibit 1A is kind of the meat of what you're really adopting as part of the ancillary document, and will help you in the future with your grant applications and your SDCs, system development fees. So when you adopt a document into the comprehensive plan, you need to show that it meets the criteria for approval, which are found in chapter 1768 of our zoning chapter, and also complies with the goals and policies and strategies of the comprehensive plan. Those findings are found in your staff report, and I'm available to answer any questions you may have. So before I hand this off to our Parks Director, Scott Archer, you have some options this evening. You can approve the first reading of the document as submitted. You can approve the first reading of the ordinance with modifications, or you can request revisions and we'll return at a future date. So I'm going to hand this over to the clicker.
It needs the clicker.
Great. Good evening, Mayor and Commission. Scott Archer, Parks and Recreation Director, and I'm just going to very briefly walk through information that you've seen and heard, I think, on multiple occasions. Most recently, we had a work session with you where we reviewed this information pretty in depth, so tonight will just be a quick review for purposes of making sure we've captured everything. So the master plan process, we've been working on this for quite some time. Mayor, thanks for acknowledging the work of prior staff and still current staff. It's been going since essentially 2022. Extensive public engagement, lots of community input through different processes. And tonight is hopefully the adoption, or working it into the adoption of the comprehensive plan. So some of the biggest takeaways at a very high level, the highest priorities identified for investment out of this plan through all the public process. Multi-use paved trails, and these are in order of priority, basically ranked by the public input. Multi-use paved trails and unpaved trails, water access, outdoor amphitheater, walking, jogging track, both indoor and outdoor, large community parks, open spaces, conservation areas, fenced dog parks, and small neighborhood parks. There was a statistically valid survey that was part of this, and there was also just an open, anybody can participate survey that was up on, I think through our website. We also had some public meetings, so lots of different ways that this input was received. There we go. The level of service analysis, this is quite a bit of detail, and I won't go through it all, but basically this defines our current service levels in parks. It defines the types of parks, and there is an attachment to the agenda. I believe it's attachment 1A that goes through and defines the types of parks and which of our parks are classified as such. Want to note that the total city-owned park acreage that we currently have in our inventory is 254 acres. There is an additional 602 acres of park or open space in our community that is available to residents, 602 acres, and that would be school district, most likely. The two biggest providers would be the school district and Metro. So when you take our city acreage plus the other providers, we've got about 856 acres of park or open space property. The standards and recommended levels of service that are noted in this chart are based on both peer agency comparison within Oregon, so other parks and rec departments or providers and national park standards, and that's how we develop that. So the most important summary of this is the current needs that we've identified for parks are right now, if you look at the standards, we need about 23 additional acres of neighborhood parkland. And there are areas in the report that are specifying kind of the focus areas that we should be looking at. We also look ahead to 2032. At the time, that was a 10-year look ahead, but now that, of course, is not quite 10 years. But at 2032, we would need 29 additional acres of neighborhood parks. Trails are a big component of this. We currently have 7.5 miles of trails that the city owns and manages. There are also an additional 5.6 miles of trails in the community with other owners, providers. So we've got 13.2 miles of formal trails in the city right now. The needs are currently we need an additional 2 miles of developed trails, and by 2032 we need an additional 3 miles. And then there are needs that are identified for amenities, particularly indoor recreation. So, some type of recreation facility, and there's also, we've identified the need for potentially a future aquatic facility. The capital improvement plan is basically spells out an estimated cost, the cost to do this over time. And again, this is about a 10-year look. So we have this broken down into categories. Total new parks development is about $53 million estimated cost. Total trail needs is about $32 million. Work on our existing parks, mostly this is deferred maintenance, is about $6.2 million. Recreational amenities, $663,000. Recreational facilities and parks, planning for expansion. So this is just planning for the new future development is about $1.3 million. River access is about $14.8 million. Upgrades and improvements to existing trails. So these are trails that are in disrepair or need to be either fixed or replaced, is about $2.2 million. We've got some aspirational upgrades that are noted, and that's about $52 million. So if we look at the total CIP over the course of this plan, and of course this is all high-level strategic and visionary, so these numbers would all be refined over time, and we would work through the priorities to actually get to these projects and these priorities. But we're looking at a total price tag, including the aspirational upgrades of $52 million. We're looking at about $163 million over the full scope of this. So this is just kind of a recap that was in the slideshow, but I think this is essentially what Christina has already spelled out to you. We're bringing this through the comprehensive plan process. PRAC has been involved in helping to develop this, and they're also going to be continuing to help us work on priorities out of this plan going forward. Yeah, that's pretty much it for me. So any other questions that either of us can answer, we'd be happy to do that.
Questions? I guess one of the questions I had is, obviously we've identified in dollars that may not be, some inflation. So how soon are we going to get to work on a capital plan? We've talked about various different ways to talk to the community about raising funds, special districts, special this, or fee, and that ties in a little bit with the pool and the other facilities that we talked about. So, I mean, there's just multiple things kind of going on, and I'm not sure where we start.
Yeah, that's the big question is it's sort of like how do we initiate? And so I think first of all, at the most recent PRAC meeting, we started to tee this up with PRAC. We want their input. That's one of our main sort of community input resources that we have, and we're asking them to work with staff to help develop what that community outreach process would look like. And internally, we're having conversations about how we start the process of identifying potential funding, needs for both development and taking care of what we've got right now. So I guess the best answer to that is it's not fully that we haven't fully developed what that strategy looks like, but it is a high priority, and we're beginning to have conversations and define how we're going to move that forward. So it's upon us.
All right, being no further questions.
Hang on.
Go ahead.
I've got a comment. I brought this up the last time, and I still have a problem. Exhibit 1A, the park summary, which is, there's a narrative on every park. And on page 13, it talks about the Buena Vista Club. And the last sentence says, if enough funding can be secured, the city should pursue a goal of reopening the building for public use. And we have not had that discussion. That if that said something like could pursue a goal or could consider a goal of reopening the building, I'd be fine with that. But this is a policy document, and this is saying we're going to pursue a goal of reopening the building, and we have not had that discussion.
Go ahead.
I agree with Commissioner Mitchell. Commissioner Smith?
I don't care if the wording's changed.
Pardon?
I don't care if the wording is changed slightly.
To could? Okay, well, I don't have an objection to that.
Nor do I.
We make that one little change.
Well, this is as a first reading, we may have to put that in the.
This isn't changing the language of the ordinance. This is just changing
Wording in
this
the
policy
document.
document that attends with the ordinance.
Right.
So I think it's fine. So I think the motion can approve the first reading of ordinance number 25-1005 with the amendment to Exhibit 1A, if that works for you.
Yeah, works for me with changing the word to could.
Are we okay with could? So should will become
Yes,
could.
I'm fine with it saying could pursue instead of should pursue.
Do you want to make that what she said?
I'll move to approve the first reading of ordinance 25-1005 with a modification in Exhibit 1A, the park summary.
Wait a second, you can't do it yet. I didn't open the public hearing.
I'm sorry, what?
I didn't open the public hearing.
Oh.
So, okay. We open the public hearing because we've got to follow procedure. So let's open the public hearing. I see the massive amount of people wanting to testify. So seeing no one here, I'm going to close the public hearing and then ask for Mr. Mitchell to say what he said again.
Okay, I'll move to approve the first reading of ordinance 25-1005 with an amendment in item Exhibit 1A, Park Summary, page 13, under the Buena Vista Club section, changing the word in the last sentence from should to could.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Let me read.
Oh, yes. You have to, well, I thought I could say it, so.
Excuse me. Ordinance number 25-1005, an ordinance of the City of Oregon City adopting the Parks Master Plan.
Commissioner Scott Wilson.
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Adam Marl.
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell.
Aye.
And Mayor Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right. Next, we have the first reading of ordinance 25-1006, adopting LEG 25-02, Climate-Friendly and Equitable Communities Code Amendments, and declaring an emergency. So why are we declaring an emergency? I know about the time frame, but...
Because of the time frame.
Okay.
So we had to post an ordinance
Yes, I know.
with the emergency option. When we created the staff report and posted the ordinance last week, DLCD had not yet responded to our questions about the buffer zone nor the extension of time.
And I appreciated the letter, thank you.
So we sent them the letter. Since last week when we posted and today, DLCD has indicated that because we're a city over 10,000 people, they do not have the ability to reduce the buffers as requested in the letter. We do not have the letter from them yet, but they are rejecting that request. They did extend the time to compliance until July 17th. So why we proposed an emergency ordinance was to give the commission the ability, because we adopt a first reading, a second reading, and it goes into effect 30 days later. So if you did your first reading tonight, the second reading would be on June 18th. That would have put us into July 17th, would have been 30 days. So if someone were to submit an application between July 1 and July 17th, we would have to go with option 1, which means there are no parking requirements at all. So now we have two things have happened. We can adopt it tonight. We can approve the first reading as proposed, approve the second reading at the next meeting, and it would go into effect June 30th because it's adopted as an emergency, so it'd be less than the 30 days. You could, if you approve it by unanimous, you could read it twice tonight, and it would go into effect on June 30th. I guess the other thing could be they could just read it once, read it twice at our next meeting, and have it go into effect 30 days later because now we have the extension from DLCD. So a couple options there on moving forward. Or deny, and I think DLCD's position is going to be on July 1, we cannot implement parking standards.
July 17th.
I'm sorry.
We've got an
Oh,
extension.
we got an extension, sorry.
If we have the
Yes.
extension. Trying to figure out how to say this very politically correctly because that's not what my head is telling me. So, they are not the last word. What's the last word? Can we appeal? I think that their ruling is unreasonable. As you know how I feel about this. I'm not going to go into the whole thing. This is another one of these things where the state is telling us to do something that doesn't work for our community, and I'm tired of it.
So we haven't seen the DLCD letter yet. When we get it, we can bring it to the commission and we can talk about how we might challenge that determination. But until we see it, we can't really give you a recommendation one way or the other. All we've got is an email from DLCD staff that a letter will be forthcoming.
Yeah, I want to take this to their commission. They just have no clue. All right, so go ahead.
We can,
go ahead, Michael.
in order to keep from having to go with their option 1, which is no parking minimums at all, we need to adopt this, but that would not preclude us from pursuing further action.
That is correct. By going forward with adopting the code amendments in option 3, we are not foregoing any ability to challenge the determination about the exemption request.
But it keeps us from having to go
But
with
it
the
keeps us from
fallback.
having to do option 3. And if we are successful in convincing them, we will amend the code again.
In the interest of not further delaying the inevitable, I will move to
We
approve
have to open
the
the public
first.
hearing.
Okay.
Sorry, it's a public hearing, so. Let me open the public hearing on ordinance number 25 sorry, I didn't flip my page. Sorry. Ordinance -25-1006, adopting legislative amendment to LEG-25-02, climate-friendly and equitable communities code amendments and declaring an emergency. So seeing that we have a vast amount of people in the audience, I see no one here to testify. I'm going to open the public hearing and I'm going to close the public hearing. And now you may make a motion.
Thank you. I move to approve the first reading of ordinance number 25-1006 and adopting LEG 2502.
There's a
Second.
We got a second?
Yes, we have a second.
Okay. Ordinance number 25-1006, an ordinance of the City of Oregon City amending Title 17 zoning of the Oregon City Municipal Code to implement parking reforms required under the Transportation Planning Rule, Oregon Administrative Rules, OAR 660-012-0400 through 0450, and OAR 660-12-630, and declaring an emergency. There is if we're going to go forward with the first reading tonight, second reading on the 18th, there's a date change that needs to be changed at the end of the ordinance that I'd like to read into the record. read for the first time at a regular meeting of the City Commission held on the 4th day of June 2025, and the City Commission finally enacted the foregoing ordinance on the 18th of June 2025.
Okay, roll call.
Commissioner Scott Wilson.
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Adam Marl.
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell.
Aye.
Mayor Denise McGriff.
No,
Motion passes.
it's not an emergency. All right, let's move on. We have, under general business, we have the second reading of ordinance number 25-1007, declaring the Oregon City Municipal Court as a court of record. I don't think well, Mr. Zook's not here, so I don't think we need any report. This is pretty straightforward, so,
I'll move to approve.
do I have to, is this a public hearing?
No, it is not.
Okay, not a public hearing, so I'll ask for a motion.
I'll move to approve the second reading of ordinance number 25-1007.
Second.
Commissioner Scott Wilson.
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Adam Marl.
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell.
Aye.
Mayor Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay. All right, next we have
I was
communication.
going to read it by title.
Oh, yes.
We'll just say you did.
I missed my window.
We'll just say you did.
Why don't I do
I
it
read
right
it.
now? Why
I
don't I
read
do
it.
it right now and we'll vote again? Okay, so we can, ordinance number 25-1007, an ordinance of the City of Oregon City declaring the Oregon City Municipal Court to be a court of record.
It's been moved and seconded.
Commissioner Scott Wilson.
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Adam Marl.
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell.
Aye.
Mayor Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Motion passes again.
All right, communications.
I have nothing tonight, thank you.
Commissioners.
Just really quickly, if I
Oh,
may.
no, please.
Today, the House, the Oregon House passed Senate Bill 916, which would allow unemployment payments to striking workers. This makes us the first in the nation to extend that to public workers. New Jersey and New York allow that for private workers, but we are the first to allow that for public employees. And needless to say, this has the potential to be very harmful for public entities, school boards, cities, counties, what special districts, what have you. It's heading back to the Senate because it was amended and they have to concur with those amendments made in the House, and it will be heading to the governor's desk for her signature. So that is something that we will be contending with moving forward.
And unfortunately, it is another yet unfunded mandate. I did make some phone calls, basically explaining that to the legislative folks I chatted with, saying that I understood that private sector could probably handle this, but we don't have budget for that. And I also explained that if you are on strike, and I will say for the record that I am a member of a union, that you are not unemployed. So why would we be giving people unemployment benefits when they are not unemployed? I can understand being unemployed, but when you're on strike, you're not unemployed. And I said that, again, unfunded mandate. They just keep coming. So I have one thing that I wanted to report, and it goes to you. Yesterday, we had an updated Shelter Advisory Committee meeting, and I've been aware of this, and I know you're aware of it, but just, I had everybody in the group basically saying that we have an increase in camping in Barclay Park. And it's causing, not only to the commercial buildings adjacent, but the residential folks that are there. And there has been, unfortunately, more incidences of, and they're not associated with the people that are doing the drug stuff on the corners are not associated with Father's Heart, but they are known to Father's Heart. So I was asked to report that out. That's all I have. So
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Can we please consider providing organizations that are going to make a presentation with a time limit, not a limit, but a time goal for their
I think
presentation?
10 minutes or
We
less.
didn't get to our agenda until after 9 o'clock tonight. And I realized part of that was, serious neighborhood concerns that we needed to hear.
Absolutely.
But I want to give people the appropriate amount of time, but we also owe it to the 15 staff members that were in the room at that time to be respectful of their time as well.
I understand. Yeah, we do. I think when they talk to Jacob about getting on the agenda, he does tell them to keep it within a certain time frame. I'm hoping we don't have to make that an absolute requirement. I think everything that we heard was valuable, but again, it is time. So we're here to be available and listen. So I'm going to adjourn the meeting, and we're going to, oh, sorry.
Or we, wait, I can do this report on the next meeting. I'll
That's
do it on
okay, you
Tuesday.
can do it. We have to adjourn to go to executive session, so. And we
Let's
need-
do that.
And we need to take a break.
We can do the report later.
Okay,
No, that's
all right,
fine.
I'm going to adjourn the meeting, and then we will reconvene in executive session in about 5 minutes.